The other day I did a reading about what will be coming up as the energy that I'll have to face, and I got the Two of Wands, the Queen of Spades, and Two of Diamonds, and this is with a deck of playing cards that I use for divination. And I've been thinking about that reading. I'm actually getting the cards out to take a look at it. As I've been experiencing the energy, I mentioned that the twos are like a portal or a door, and I really feel that's true. Though it would be in different ways, like especially with the Two of Wands. You know, we see that imagery in the traditional tarot as a guy with his hand on one of the staves, and it's loose, it's not in the ground, it's not stable, and he has the world in his hands, and he looks like he's considering and pondering and taking something into account, which I also mentioned as being this maybe decision you've made and one you're considering. So you have the other wand that's usually depicted in a wall as though it has built the structure. You know, it was the Ace of Wands, and now you are continuing on to the Two. So I do think there's a bit of stability and balance, but because it's projecting off in the way of a Three, as would be implied, there is that instability. So maybe in thought, you know, and what you're thinking about is the next action. So I went through the deck and I didn't find the Queen of Spades right away. I just wanted to retake a look at this imagery, and I found it interesting that you can feel these kind of vibes in re-looking at the cards, that there's this issue over the kind of projected energy of the Two of Wands with the double-sided energy of the Queen, meaning there may be a lot of passion and hope and desire to go in one direction, but what actually establishes, because it's at the bottom beneath them, is stable because it's earth. But it's also maybe with less passion. Maybe there's something that wasn't really wanting to be faced, you know, but this sense of grounding comes in, which is ironically stability. But I would say it's good with a Two of Wands fire and a Queen of air. You know, you could get a hurricane if you're not careful. Mixing the fire and the air together is very passionate and powerful. So having something like earth there gives it a sense of stability, and I do think that's good. But if you look at the cards in another way, it's almost like the Queen has two doors she could walk through, as seen through the double-sided imagery of her, and then the two kind of portals. But because of the kind of layout that I did, I mean, it doesn't seem like she would walk through both, right? So it's kind of interesting, this interplay comes up of choices, and kind of makes me think back of that thing, like all the roads lead to the same place, ultimately. But I see it as like a conflict of desire, you know. Even though there may be some balance in this, it's not like there's a structure of stability and cozy feelings. It looks like there's some kind of sadness. I mean, we didn't get a Queen of Hearts, we got a Queen of Spades. And I think there's a lot of strength of will, you know. Because I feel like your will is created from your knowing. Your knowing helps give birth to your will. Your will is born based on what you know. Which is probably why our will can take us in, you know, take us down a path that isn't as wise if we don't know. To have gained that wisdom from understanding. So, another thing I didn't mention about the Two of Diamonds that I've been thinking about is that mercurial aspect. And only a couple cards actually remember the astrological aspect. But that would be something that I should remember and take to heart. But I do know that in tarot, the Two of Diamonds is considered mercurial, and you often see a clown or a jester or someone who's juggling and, you know, kind of multitasking. But it's also playful and fun. I've seen him with a foxtail before. There's usually a choppy sea and boats riding on the water. So it's a lot of activity and action, which is interesting because the Two of Diamonds is Earth, and Earth is the most secure and stable of all of the elements. And yet you've got the sea is throwing boats around, and boats are riding this way and that. You have a character who's doing several things at once. If you take the Two of Diamonds card and move it up next to the Queen, it's interesting how it very clearly looks like two different doorways, two different options. And one would be stable and secure, but perhaps, you know, so active in a way that it may be so I'm really not sure what I was saying there. I will just continue that. Maybe the other direction is more passionate, but like going back to that imagery of holding the world and considering it, it leaves a sense of flightiness, you know, even though there's something established there and there is a projected way of action in the future. It's not secured as of yet, and that makes it more of an essence. Reminds me of Seven of Cups, you know. It could be a surprise and there be something come of it, but you really, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. And you really won't know until you experience it. Whereas I feel the Two of Diamonds, even though it may be busy and there could be a lot going on in the way of communication with messages. Anyway, we had gotten that these cards add up to the world. That's if you look at the numbers, letters based on tarot. But some people consider the court cards to be a 10. In which case that the Queen was representative of a 10, then this would equal 14. 14 represents the letter N, and that's good because we can only really make the best of this existence by going in. And that's with everything. Whether you're happy or sad or things are good or bad, you have to go in to correct, fix, repair, replenish, appreciate for everything, in order to connect to our Creator, to the highest part of ourself. And by the highest, that's the part that has the loyalty, the integrity. If you go back to my reading, you'll see that when I was going to explain how Q is 17 and 17 is the star, I actually started to explain temperance first. And I wasn't sure why, and I find it hella interesting to come back and consider that if the court cards were just equal to 10 and this is 14, then we get temperance. So on the one hand, there's the essence of the star coming through, replenishing your own waters. And I said lake or stream, but it's often a pond, right? But you know, it could be any of those. But there's water being poured into the water source, which is interesting. You know, did this person collect the water from the same pond and now she's pouring it back? And does that mean she had to take those waters for some magical reason? And that's an interesting thing to ponder, right? And if so, why would she put them back? Did she wait for the rain to fall to catch the rainwater in the pitcher and then pour it in? Who said she's pouring water? How do we know it's not blood? How do we know it's not wine? You know, what is it really? Is it an offering? Is it ethereal fairy glitter? Like, we don't know, right? But it's shown as a substance that looks equal to the substance that it's being poured into. But anyway, if the court card is 10 and not a 17, then we have 14. We have N, and 14 is temperance. And temperance has also some sort of water source where an angel has his foot on the land and his foot on the water. Or her, you know, the angel. And there's like mountains off in the distance and a crown. And I believe there's the symbol of fire. And it's the card of Sagittarius. So again, we have Aquarius, which is air. And we have Sagittarius, which is fire. And we're seeing that in the cards. We're seeing Two of Wands, air, and the Queen of Spades. I mean, the Two of Wands, fire, and the Queen of Spades, air. So, also, all of these cards, when you add them up, if the Q is 17, equals 21, and 21 equals the world. So it's interesting how we have this play of passion, fire, and air. I'm not really sure what element the world would be. It makes you wonder if that would be Earth, and if so, with the Two of Diamonds, it's really interesting, right? It's kind of that weird way that numbers all add up, and then you can recount them, and they add up to the same thing, and all of that crazy stuff. To give you an example right off, I'm not sure, except for, like, if you get a 13, then you say 1 plus 3 is 4. I'm not really sure how to make that pertinent. So I kind of went completely dumb for a second. Anyway, it's okay, I forgive myself. So I basically created an English alphabet key so I could go back at moments like this and see what the hell I'm trying to say. So for 13, because we used that as an example, the letter M is 13, okay, but 13 is also 4, so 4 is D, and like V is 22. I'm just trying to remember how that connects. Wow, well I just realized that U is 21. So to get the world is U. And that's interesting because that's completion, right? Which is funny because to get you, though, would be double U, which is 24. So U is 21, but if you actually get 21, then you get 24. But wait, 24 is X. So W is 23, so I had that wrong. So, to get U, which is 21, you know, you are U, and you get U, so that's W is 23. Which is interesting, but going back to what I was saying, I don't know if I found a glitch here in the stuff that I did, and I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I'm so silly. So D is 4, M is 13, which is 4, and V is 22, which is 4. Okay, so I hope that wasn't too confusing in trying to go back and just saying how the numbers, you know, they equal each other in different ways. Like A is J, is S, is 1, is 10, is 19. So I wanted to use another example. Which one was I going to use? Well, we were talking about 13. So we got N, for example. Okay, so N was 14. Well, by looking at the code for the language that you're speaking, you go and you see that N is also E and W. Which means when you see 14, so if you get temperance, it also represents 5 and 23. Like I was just... Now, how fucking interesting is that, right? That we added up the cards and they equal 21. And I said to get U, which is 21, you get W, which is 23. Now, even though 21 is equal to 3 and 12, or U, L, and C, also, well, I shouldn't say also, we'll just repeat that U is 21, which is 12, which is 21 reversed, and 3, or U, L, and C. But we also got in the reading 14. If we looked at the Q as a 10, which was just a random thing I thought of because they do that in a lot of solitaire games and things like that. So in which case 14, if you look at the alphabet, you have the letter E is 5, okay? The letter N is 14, which is 5, and the letter W, which is 23, is 5. So not only did we get 21, which is U, which is 12, which is 21 reverse, and 3, ULC, which by the way is an anagram for luck, clue, Olk, which makes me think of old milk. I don't know how you say that right, but it's like in bulk, which is when the animals are getting ready for spring. So what else did we get? We got Q. Okay, so Q, we'll start with H because H is 8. Okay, Q is 17, but 17 is 8. And we have Z is 26, which is 8. So basically, when you get the Queen, or if you're in tarot and you get the Star, which is 17, you're getting 8. Which is funny, you're getting 8, you're getting Eden. Yeah, so if you're getting 8, we have, you're getting H. And we know 8 is strength in the tarot. So that's a cool secret that you can learn. Is that, you know, if you get the star card, you see it, then you know you're also getting the strength card. And so, yeah, that's really cool. So now we got 2, right? And we got 4. And basically you can create this chart. I probably will have taken a picture of it. I'm pretty sure it's completely accurate. I've written it a few times and checked it, but you know, I get wacky and I need to, I'm pretty sure it's right. And there may be more to think of, things I didn't consider. But yeah, this is something fun you can look at when you're going over cards and whatnot. Because basically we got 2, we got a queen, and we got another 2. So we got 4. That can be looked at like 14, or if the Q is 17, then it can be looked at as 21. So basically, to add a little bit more to this, if we looked at it as 21, which is you, then that's also 12. See, now that's something I didn't consider, is numbers that are reversed in this alphabet key, which I should go back if I can keep my brain up and just like remember this. But 21 would have been 12 whether they both equaled 3 or not, which is kind of what I was originally saying. But basically we have, for example, it's interesting that B is 2, K is 11, which is 2, and T is 20, which is 2. But even if you reverse 20, which is 02, you have 2. So I guess what I would be trying to say is, like, if A is J is S is 1 is 10 is 19, then they're also equal to 91. Now, there isn't a 91 in the alphabet, but that may be of note. Let's see if I could do another one, which, like, if E is 5, and N is 14, which is 5, and W is 23, which is 5, well, then we'd also have to include that 41, that 14 is 41, and that 23 is 32. And we could do another one, which would be G is 7, P is 16, which is 7, and Y is 25, which is 7, but that means it's also equal to 61 and to 52. So we can go through the rest of these and find those, but here's the most interesting one of all, is that I is 9 equals R, which is 18, which is 9. And that's it, but we'd have to take into account that 81 would be 9. And then actually you could take the entire sets of numbers that are equal to each other, putting them beside each other, and you'd have to be able to write them in every way, you know. So if it was 1, 10, 19, you can have 10, 1, 19, or 19. Oh God, my brain just went on tilt. But you know what I'm saying. And I've done that before, but I often lose heart and need to try again. I think stuff like the lottery uses those kinds of methods. I don't pretend to be a mathematician. I just, yeah, anyway. So yeah, and I'm not sure I can remember how to prove it right now, but I and R are basically a kind of like secret based on when you start looking at the capital and lowercase. Because it's the reversed I. So like an I is like an exclamation point when it's reversed. Like ultimately you end up with that when you play with the English language. I had kept a document of it. I may have saved it in my stuff. I get upset sometimes and delete a lot of shit, but I might go back and see if I can find that. I think that'd be a fun thing to talk about if I can rework it out and express it through words. So this has been a re-exploration and looking at the recent tarot reading I did for the yin heart. Not sure what I'll name this, but I'll be creative. Maybe show a picture of my English alphabet key or even rewrite it. Basically, you need to place your blood over your intent if you haven't. The good news of the Bible gospel is coming forward, that we're going to be allowed back into the Garden of Eden if we so choose, because it's our birthright. But we have to obtain forgiveness, for our souls are unclean. And we do this by posting proof of life to our Creator. You get a piece of paper and you write, I intend to bring forth heaven on earth and release all from bondage. You place a drop of your blood over the words. You can put more than a drop. Whatever's comfortable for you in honor and truth. And you upload this video that you make onto YouTube, and you put a tag, a title, and a description, blood over intent. This is the lamb's blood on your door, and it removes your name from the book of death. It adds it to the book of life. And the Antichrist, Mark Braun, has the spear of destiny, and he's leading the way. So I like to say, it's of note that when you've done blood over intent, you may get involved and see things contrary to what's the truth in your heart, which can go for anything in life. But that doesn't mean this isn't real and this isn't true. You know, if you run into something that doesn't mesh with you, then move along and continue going forward in truth, knowing that you've placed your blood over your intent, that you've laid your blood beside your brethren, beside Satan, who is Mark Braun, who's the Antichrist, who's the devil, and those are the names that he calls himself. He often says it doesn't matter what you call him, without him you're dead. But you don't need to feel like, well God, upset about that. It's a good thing. You know, he was given the spear of destiny for a reason, and he accepted it for a reason. He owns this world now according to the Bible, and it's that this is the good news. Don't be afraid. Let your heart rejoice. We get to live forever now with our loved ones. And often Mark says, like, you don't have to like it. You know, you don't have to like him or that he is in control of this. But that's the way that it is. And you really don't need to focus on any kind of thoughts of that. You just place your blood over your intent and be happy that you get to live forever with your loved ones. We're going into safe haven, into Eden, and you know, God has set before us life and death. Choose life that it may go well with you. So I want your soul nurtured. I want you to know that truth, but to feel a deep serenity and not worry and fear. And I hug your precious soul. I place my blood up for everyone, you know, in honor and truth. And I want everyone to stay inspired and to know they are precious and that they are loved. And you could say worshipped instead. So the thing is that I want everyone to be full of serenity and not fear. And rainbow kisses eternal. I hope you found this interesting, and we'll see where the next creative endeavor lies. Or would you say lay? Where it lay? I don't know, that word confuses me. So until then, I bid you adieu.